Live from San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer, and we're going to be here the next 2 hours. Brian Alvarez and myself talking pro wrestling. We got a lot of topics to discuss, and we got a couple hours to discuss them. We got a full bank of phone calls, so you can jump on board as soon as somebody hangs up. We can talk about Bret Hart, who suffered a stroke on Monday. We can talk about the second one on Wednesday night, which had one incredible match and not a lot else. More on Vince Russo and World Wrestling Entertainment. We can talk about Raw. Quite an interesting show. Not necessarily a good one, but it was interesting. SmackDown, which was hell of a show. Pride, which is going on right as we speak. UFC. And any other talk in the world of pro wrestling. Anywhere in the world, you can jump in. Brian, what is happening right now in the Pride Fighting Championships on pay-per-view?
We're just starting the Jeremy Horn versus Gilbert Ivell match. It's the fourth match on the show. Very quickly, the results. Bob Sapp killed Kiyoshi Tamura. Pretty much most of you that care about this show already know the results, but as far as how the match is looking in the opener, Bob Sapp is just this giant, very green fighter, but he weighed in at like 387 pounds, and Tamura was like, what was he, 190?
192.
192, and Sapp just punched him in the head, and he fell down, and then he went to work on him on the ground, and they thankfully stopped it. I don't know if I'd call it an early stoppage, but Tamura wasn't in any danger, but I think any longer he would have been, so that was good. Gary Goodridge versus Labazimov Ahmed was quite horrible. They spent most of the time on the ground doing pretty much nothing. It was a split decision for Goodridge, and Goodridge in the final round it looked like he was out on his feet, just totally exhausted, and did nothing when he was down there, so that was the end of that. Anderson Silva beat Alex Stibling quickly, stopped on blood. I saw the very end of it, and it looked like it was bleeding a little bit, but nothing horrible, but they stopped it, so I'm sure there will be people that will be arguing that finish, but that was that. And right now we're at Jeremy Horn versus Gilbert Ivell, and I had an epiphany during this match that Jeremy Horn is what Edge would look like without hair.
And and I guess that means that Edge probably shouldn't cut his hair.
Yes, he should not be cutting his hair anytime soon.
Okay, he's the one who always says that. He was like, no one's going to think I'm a pretty boy if I get a haircut.
And I'm looking at Jeremy Horn, and he's right.
Well, anyway, we can talk more about that as well. We're going to start getting to phone calls right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer, Sports Byline USA.
Time for more Wrestling Observer Live. Email the show now or anytime at WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. That's WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. Now, back to Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. I was thinking back about 6 summers ago, and Bret Hart had just retired from professional wrestling, or he was kind of wanting to be an actor. He had just lost the title to Shawn Michaels, and he did kind of a finish that would set up a rematch, which, eventually, he was, going back and forth whether he was going to come back to wrestle, spend more time with his fans. Wrestling got so competitive when Hall and Nash jumped to WCW, and Eric Bischoff was getting really aggressive, and they made him, his contract was running out, they made him a huge offer, and Vince McMahon made him a huge offer, and then these offers were like going back and forth, and he was just kind of sitting there, and, he was a guy who went from kind of wanting to retire from wrestling to, I can't retire from wrestling with all this money. I'm going to, work for, a couple more years, and I'm going to, sit on this island with nothing but money for the rest of my life.
Yep.
So he ended up taking Vince McMahon's offer because he trusted Vince McMahon, which we can get into that one, the irony of that. He trusted Vince McMahon more than Eric Bischoff at the time. So he took that offer for the 20-year contract, and everyone knows what happened. The story's always wrong, but everyone knows the basics of what happened there. And what's happened to him in the last, him and that family in the last 3 years, it is unbelievable. And he suffered a stroke on Monday. He was riding his bicycle at a very high speed on the trail that he always rides in Calgary, and he hit a pothole and he was not wearing a helmet. He went over the bicycle handlebars and landed on the back of his head and his back on the ground and called 911 and was able to call his ex-wife as well, and just took a really bad fall, went to the hospital, and the left side of his body was paralyzed, and in fact late that night they diagnosed that he had suffered. For the most part, he has no movement of his left arm. He has very, very limited movement of his left leg. I mean, no power, but he does have movement. They are hopeful of a close to full recovery. I don't think that a full recovery, but, coming on the heels of everything. We had him on the show just a few weeks ago after Davey Boy Smith died. And, the various deaths in his family, of course, Owen most notable. I don't know, it's an unbelievable story there. The heart
like one paragraph in the Calgary Sun. I was reading an article today, and I mean, just one paragraph they talked about Owen died, Davey died, Helen died, Brett had a stroke, and right there I was just thinking,
Matthew Annis died in '96, and I don't know what else to say.
I need to compare him to the Von Erichs, but I mean, look at Fritz. I mean, he outlived everybody. All those terrible things that happened to the family, and poor Stu's going through the same thing.
Yeah, the Von Erichs and the Hearts are very different, though. Other than Davey Boy, I mean, I would say Davey Boy's situation is very similar to the Von Erichs, but but the rest of them, the Von Erichs, it was not a series of freak accidents. It was just you
could have seen it coming.
Suicide, yeah, everyone saw it coming. Whereas this one, I mean, the Owen Hart thing was a total freak thing. Matthew Annis, died of at the age of whatever was 14 of this rare flesh-eating disease. Brett's stroke, Brett's concussion. We didn't even talk about that. His career ending up jaw. I mean, that concussion in the match with Goldberg, or a series of concussions, actually. The doctors, when he had the concussion, he was told that, if he continued to wrestle, there was the possibility of a stroke.
Yeah.
But the doctors apparently have ruled out that concussion that he got from Bill Goldberg had nothing to do with...
Yeah, but how can you say that, though?
I don't know how they can...
I'm not going to question the doctor or anything like that, but, I mean, when you think about it, this guy had all these concussions, forced him to retire from wrestling, and all of a sudden this thing happens, and whether he had the stroke before or after, I guess, would make a difference. But if he had a pothole, flew over the handlebars, took a bump on the cement...
What's the difference between that bump and a terrible professional wrestling bump, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then he had a stroke, and here's a doctor going, oh, well... I mean, how can you even say that?
They did. I mean, when I first heard it, when I first heard about what was happening on Monday, Tuesday, I had thought, one probably had to do with the other because I knew, the things that he was told, but they ruled, they said that that's not the case. NWA TNA on Wednesday night, their second pay-per-view. I thought that the match with Low-Key, AJ Styles, Jerry Lynn, and Psychosis was just about the best match I've seen in the United States this year. It was phenomenal, and as good as that match was, I thought everything else on the show was I'm watching the show, and I'm so sad, because I could feel the day of the show there really wasn't much of a buzz, and then when the reaction came in over the next couple of shows, which is whatever it was, people liked the first show, but they didn't come back for a second show, and I mean, we can all say why that happened, and I was curious, but the bottom line is it happened, and I don't know where they're going to go from here.
I almost think that they're hardcore internet fans and casual internet fans, because I have a lot of friends that I wouldn't call them like casual fans because they go online and they read stuff every now and then, but they don't go up there every day and read every site and know everything.
Well, nobody does.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there's some people that go on every day and look for news.
Yeah.
And I think
there are people
on maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And my friends that go on 2 or 3 times a week that are, I guess, semi-hardcore internet fans, they all bought the first show. And for them was 100%. Like, every single one of them bought the first show, and that was the end of that.
And why did they say?
They just wanted to see what the first show was like. That was all the interest they had, was just to see what the first show was like. And I guess Jeremy Borash's thing about, convincing them with that one show to tune into the next one didn't work because they bought the show, they thought it wasn't too bad, and that was it. They didn't care the next week.
The thing was the first show we got generally good reviews. The second show we got even better reviews. But the bottom line is that most of the people, or half of the people who watched the first show, didn't buy the second show, whether they liked it or not. Brian, I got Figure 4 the other day, and where did you come up with that Frank Gotch thing? That was like the greatest thing I have ever seen in my life.
Wow.
The Frank Gotch gangster rap.
Well, how about Compton? It all grew from there.
That was unbelievable. That and your prom story.
Oh, yes. Let's not repeat that one on the air. It's too low credibility.
It's too late. You went to your prom and you didn't go with Tori Wilson.
No, I didn't, fortunate. I didn't break my leg first. Yeah, I went to prom, and then afterwards we went and jumped on the trampoline at the gymnastics place.
And why did you do that?
I don't know. It was just like, well, we got a key. Why not? I was young.
Okay. Anyway, I don't even know what to say about that. Other than
what a geek.
Yeah, but hey, you know who could be writing WWF in 3 or 4 weeks?
Oh, that's right.
Talking about you. You would have lasted what, 3 weeks, 5 weeks max.
I always think about if I were like on the writing crew, and with all the horrible things that have been on TV, I can just see myself sitting back there and making some sarcastic comment or coming up with just the most absurd angle, just as a total joke to try and lighten up the attitude, and them doing it. I swear to God, I could see that.
This is your life, Mick Foley and Len Roth.
Like the Time Cop thing that I wrote about this week with the wrestler called Time Cop.
Yeah.
Where his gimmick would be that he goes back in time and, he always knows that he's going to lose, but he still does the match and loses. He cuts a promo afterwards saying, I knew I was going to lose. And I can see myself, like, this is the whole Disco Inferno thing he was talking about. I can't remember what the angle was they were talking about on the Internet that he was going with.
Oh, the ad man?
Yeah, the ad man or whatever it was. And, I'm sure that he's come up with ideas in the past that he's meant strictly as a joke, and people have taken him seriously. And some have probably ended up on TV. And I just see that happening.
What do you think of Cheeks?
Cheeks was like the fattest man he was going with.
Oh, the ad man?
Yeah, the ad man or whatever it was. And, I'm sure that he's come up with ideas in the past that he's meant strictly as a joke, and people have taken him seriously. And some have probably ended up on TV. And I just see that happening.
What do you think of Cheeks?
Cheeks was like the fattest man that I've ever seen in wrestling. And I know there have been larger people, but even with a guy like Yokozuna, but I could still look at him and kind of see like a base of muscle underneath him, you know what I mean? Like he kind of...
Oh, he was like you knew that if he was like 400 pounds, he'd play.
Yeah, like he had some real power behind him.
Yes, he did.
Like he was a very strong man. But I just look at Cheeks, and, he was like a guy you'd see on the Jerry Springer show. And it was, I don't know. I could not believe they put him on TV.
That was what... I'm watching that show, and even knowing that this main event's going to be great, I see, like, the second week crowd, and thankfully, they learned early. It's like they can't do that again. Like tape 2 shows in one night. But they had a taped show, and Cheeks still aired on the show, and it's like, it was so bad. And I just don't understand, like, when something's that bad, like with Vince McMahon on SmackDown, one of the reasons why SmackDown is usually better than Raw is because if Cheeks showed up on SmackDown, Vince McMahon would just go, this is nuts. It's just not going to make the air.
Yeah, the difference, though, is for SmackDown, I think they tape more than 2 hours, plus they have all that syndicated stuff. So if all else fails, they can put something else in there. But I think TNA, I think they had an hour and 45 minutes worth of footage. And without the Cheeks thing and the women thing, they'd have had like an hour and 15 minutes of footage.
They should have just kept taping on that night. How smart do you have to be when the Cheeks thing is going on and going like, okay, this isn't good. Let's throw James Storm and somebody out there and just have like a nice little match.
Yeah.
It's not that hard, and it doesn't require that much thinking on your feet. That was one thing I was really disappointed with. Anyway, we're going to start getting phone calls right after this break. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
We're back with Wrestling Observer Live. Give us a call anywhere in the U.S. toll-free at 1-866-OBSERVER. That's 1-866-627-3783. Once again, here's Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly. If you're interested in information on how to get either of the 2 publications, Wrestling Observer newsletter, which is most detailed wrestling news you're going to find anywhere in the world, cover the whole world, you can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com, and you can also click on to get information on Figure 4 Weekly, which, believe me, if you get Figure 4 Weekly, you will be entertained for an hour every week, and you'll laugh like crazy, and you'll learn a lot about wrestling at the same time. Brian's got tremendous insight into this business, as those of you listening to the show know. We're going to start in Queens, New York, with Joe. Joe, what's happening?
Hey, Dave?
Yes.
How you doing?
Doing great.
I just have a question about NWA TNA.
Yes.
Their card looks really weak this week, so how much longer do you think it's going to last?
I'm not the right person to ask that question because I don't know what their goals are and things like that, and how far along they are in their goals. But if they do not get strong television and they do not revamp their format, I don't see it as a winning project. That's for sure. And I think most people are already writing it off.
I actually thought weeks when I heard the original plan, but I guess it's going to last.
I think they'll last
longer than that.
I think they'll last a little longer than that, but I don't know. I mean, if this buy rate number happens to come in and it's 10,000, I don't see why they would possibly do another show. But I think they will. But one of the things is they are probably getting fake buy rate numbers. Okay, because in demand,
it's fake, just that people don't know yet.
Yeah, and they're not going to get real numbers for probably 2 to 3 months, and at that point, boy, they're going to be such in a deep hole financially because it costs probably $250,000 to run one of those things every week.
Yeah,
it's tough.
I just want to say, get well, Brett, and Sean O'Hare looked really good on Heat today.
Oh, good.
Waiting for the replay to come on.
Oh, good.
Yes, all right, that's it.
We're still in the middle of Horn versus Ivell, and I'm just kind of watching it out of the corner of my eye, but it looks damn good.
Really?
I mean, it doesn't look like it was totally one-sided. It's, I think pretty much both guys getting their shots in, and I can't even remember the results of this match, but was it split decision?
No, it wasn't. It was unanimous decision.
Really?
Yes.
Looking competitive so far.
Okay, let's go to Alan in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Alan, what's happening?
Hey, Dave, how's it going, man?
Going really good.
Vince Russo's coming in to be the writer. Now, I wanted to ask you about the Bash at the Beach incident because I don't get the Observer anymore. How much of the Vince Russo incident was a planned angle?
Everything up until he did that promo. I think he planned the whole thing.
Without Hogan's knowledge.
As far as the interview, I don't think Hogan knew about the interview, but everything else Hogan had full knowledge of.
Okay, so when Jarrett laid down, I was...
Oh, yeah. Why do you think they didn't turn the mic off on Hogan?
Okay.
Yeah.
And has the lawsuit between Hogan and Russo been resolved, or is it still tension, or what?
They don't like each other. The lawsuit has not been resolved, but it's a very weak case because, see, the whole case on Hogan suing is that he would have to prove damages in that Vince Russo by making those comments his career. And it's pretty hard considering the success Hogan's having right now to say that his career was all that damaged.
What were the comments anyway? Like, you're old?
Yeah.
How do you go to court and go, he called me old? I'm 49, but...
Ask you something, because I was talking to Kevin Sullivan yesterday at the FOW show, and I don't know if he was working me or not, but he said at one time that him and Dusty Rhodes didn't really get along. Is that true?
Oh, I'm sure that that they probably had it's been around for 20 years.
Right.
With Dusty Rhodes has their points, where they're not going to get along. Dusty, Dusty had a lot of power, and everyone in power kind of people don't like. I mean, so.
It's Terry Funk's birthday today. I was going to ask you about
That's right. It's June 30th. It's Terry Funk's birthday. 58 years old.
Did Dusty and him ever have problems, or was that all just part of the angle, or what?
Well, I mean, everything they did on TV was an angle, but I mean, as far as they had their ups and downs too,
Yeah.
But I mean, they always, but it never got in the way of working together. I mean, Terry Funk. I've never heard of anyone that Terry Funk ever had a problem with that got in the way of working a good match if need be.
Do personal problems in wrestling ever cause two people to not work together if there's money to be made?
Bill Goldberg and Vince Russo, maybe.
See how much money is thrown at him.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they want they want him, and he's not returning their calls.
I seriously think that every day his value has to go up. Like every
hour.
What about Helmsley and Goldberg? They're going to be able to work out their differences and try to work a program.
I would think that
to make money.
I would think that Helmsley would be willing to work with him, but maybe not work with him right. And Goldberg, it'd be tricky.
Put him over.
What, Helmsley be willing to put him over? He'd cry and moan and say it's the worst thing for business. I don't know. I mean...
Yeah, but you know what? If business really got so bad that Hunter in the main events was, or not even in the main events, was just making significantly less money, I think he's smart enough to know get it right with Goldberg. He could make some money.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But we'll see how bad business gets before they bring him in for the program.
Yeah.
Well, you think he's coming in anytime soon?
Goldberg? No, not soon, no. At some point, I can't imagine it not happening. But then again, I would have said that a year ago. They should have brought him in right when they bought that company, and things would have been very different.
Vince McMahon is trying to make up with him, or is he just trying to be respectful, or what?
He's being respectful. If Vince McMahon, Vince McMahon's not a horrible person in that. If there was word from Bret Hart that that he would like Vince to call. I'm sure Vince would call. I don't know if Vince would take the time to do it. There's not a question in my mind. I don't know that Brett really. I don't know if he wants to hear from Vince right now or not. I don't know.
You think they'll ever work together?
I don't. You know what's funny? Is if he were to make any kind of full recovery or close to a full recovery, the odds if you had asked me that like a week ago, I would say probably never. Now, depending on how Vince McMahon reacts and how Bret Hart reacts, and if Bret Hart makes a full Bret Hart's never going to rush to come out there. Maybe he'll want that. Maybe Bret Hart will want that in like a year and a half from now.
Maybe, but then people say the Survivor Series is old.
They're not going to say it now. I mean, come on. If the guys come
back, if
it never comes back, people will say it. Yeah,
you can't change anybody's mind no matter what.
Yeah, well, a lot of those depositions change people's minds, but I know it doesn't. Anyway, we got to get
10 years though. If people don't believe it now, who cares?
All right.
That's true, too.
If you're that ignorant after 10 years, then...
5 years, but I know, seriously. Seriously, at this point...
Like 100 years.
At this point, you're right. At this point, it's just ridiculous.
It's a trivial situation what's going on now, but... compared to what's going on now with the family and stuff.
The one thing, and again, this is, very trivial, but unless Russo comes in and writes, which is a pretty decent shot, I do believe that those angles regarding Montreal are over for real this time.
Mm-hmm.
If Russo comes in, though, Russo will want to do something, because that's all he knows.
Right.
Anyway, we're going to get running, okay?
Thank you, man.
Okay, let's go to Ed in San Antonio. Ed, what's happening?
Hey, guys, how's it going? What I want to talk today about is John Cena.
Yes.
When I saw SmackDown, I have to honestly say I had the same feelings that when I saw Sting in the UWF way back in the day.
It's funny you should say Sting. You're saying Sting like I wrote that every week for about the last. He reminds me of Sting, so when they brought him up, they wouldn't like Deacon Batista.
Deacon Dave.
Yeah. Well, actually, took the Deacon away from him. But anyway, go ahead.
Right.
Okay. What I thought it was, how did you feel that the angle went up? Do you think?
Even though they made it was better.
And you know what I thought was so great about that finish was. Angle's out there, and here's the supposed rookie coming out and just, hitting everything in the book on this guy in a pro wrestling match, and finally Angle just snaps and hooks him a double chicken wing and pins him. And, that right there, I don't know if they planned it like that or not, but it just seemed like it made it so much better. Like, here's this guy that had to resort to his Olympic wrestling gold medal skills to beat this kid because he couldn't do it in a pro wrestling match.
Is that how you saw it?
Yeah.
You're the only one who saw it that way.
Really?
But I thought that it was all right. I thought it was great. They made a guy in one night. The thing is now they got to follow up on it. And
who could have done a better job than Angle?
Hey, I got all the respect in the world for Angle, but he was Ric Flair on Thursday night.
Yes, he was.
That was like a Ric Flair performance with Sting. Where Ric Flair did the same thing with Sting. Except it took him 45 minutes to do it, but.
Yeah, and Sting had a few more years' experience.
Sting had a little bit more experience. But Cena's been around for, about 2 years? When did we first...
I think about a year and a half, because I just put up one of those 1 year ago deals, and he was just coming from UPW.
Yeah, but he was in UPW for a while. He started when they did that... remember that just started when that thing had aired?
The Discovery Channel thing?
Yeah, I'm thinking that was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, and... one more thing I wanted to ask you. I reread Tributes again this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the story between Bruiser Brody and Gorilla Monsoon wanting to go at it at a match?
Gorilla Monsoon was like the enforcer for the WWF as it was known at the time, and they had a difference of opinion. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but they ended up being, it ended up where they almost got into it. They didn't get into it, and a lot of phone calls were made, and Bruiser Brody went from being a main event in the WWF to having no promoters in the United States even wanting to use him, and he had to go all the way to Australia as a pro wrestler. So those phone calls must have been must have said something about do not use Bruiser Brody.
Oh, okay. And I have a question for Brian.
Yeah.
Brian, I know you had mentioned a little bit about Taylor Massey on the Figure 4 this week.
Hold on, we got to get running right now, okay?
Oh, okay.
Okay, you're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Am I going to fall asleep during the Gary Goodridge match when I go home?
Oh, God, just fast forward right through it.
Okay.
You don't need to see it.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I was thinking during the break that, when we were
By
talking...
the way, you know who was in Tamura's corner?
Kasaka?
Yeah.
Okay, then I got it right.
He trains with Bob Sapp.
Yeah, that's I noticed it. I heard about all that. That's kind of weird, huh?
That was quite amusing. I think they all knew that Tamura was dead, so...
I did. I was so brutally against this fight. I emailed the Pride people and I go, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You trying to kill this poor guy?"
When it was over, my brother looks at me and goes, "Tamura has balls." I went, "Yes, he does."
Yeah, he does.
Very brave man.
But you know what? I mean,
and he faced Vanderlei Silva.
And he gave Vanderlei Silva a real fight.
Yeah.
But I mean, see, that's what's okay. Tamura and Sakuraba could have fought each other and done business, and now they can't. And see, that's what's, they could have had Bob Sapp, beat any 190-pound guy in the world, and he would have done it.
Yeah.
So why did they have to pick a guy who, has drawing power and charisma?
I think it's just they think that Bob Sapp is like the future, and at least, Kiyoshi Tamura has a name.
Yes, he does.
And so you have this monster kill this legend in 11 seconds.
Well, so much for
doing something for his career.
So much for Frank Shamrock and Kiyoshi Tamura. What's the plan up until about 11 seconds? Let's go to Jim in Fort Lauderdale. Jim, what's happening?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
All right. Just found your website. Love it, guys.
Oh, thanks very much.
I got a couple questions about Chris Jericho.
Okay.
I'm getting the impression that the WWE has given up on him.
They can't afford to because they don't have a lot of depth, especially with a brand extension. So they've got to keep him pretty strong, and he did a really good job on Thursday.
Oh God, he did an awesome job.
Yeah, I think he did the best job with Hogan of anyone since since Ric Flair in his prime, probably.
Is there any chance that you're going to make him a face again? Because I haven't seen any of that as a heel.
Someday I'm sure, but I mean, as far as short term, I don't think so. No, I mean, they could do that tomorrow, but I don't see any hints of Jericho going face. No.
I miss it because I'm new to all the wrestling and everything, but when him and Rock were both faces going off, I don't think they give him the leeway as a heel to go off and do the mic work that I think he's capable of.
Him and Rock, that was the last great program, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really, just great, great matches, great interviews.
I miss it. I hope it comes back. And
I miss a lot of stuff from the years.
I miss that Kurt Angle, Triple H stuff up until they wrestled.
Yeah.
They just ruined it.
And they gave it. Oh God.
Yeah.
That's like the Invasion. That was going to haunt me forever too.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it, and I, like I said, enjoy the website. Thanks a lot.
Okay, you're very welcome. Let's go to Adam in Rochester, New York. Adam, what's happening?
Hey, what's up? I've been listening for so long.
Oh, good.
I have one quick question. I'm hoping you could settle a bet between me and my buddy for $1,000. Who do you think's a better overall total package wrestler, HBK, Bret Hart, and then...
It depends.
$1,000.
It depends on.
It's $1,000.
It depends on what depends on what you consider. But I mean, if you were to say better in the ring performance,
You just won me money.
What did you say, Brian?
I'm still getting over the $1,000.
I know. Brian, what would you say?
I would say Michaels.
Yeah.
Thank you. God,
I had to get a best of Shawn Michaels comp or a best of Bret Hart comp. I'm afraid I'd get the Shawn Michaels.
I've got them both, and the Shawn Michaels one is better.
Yeah. I mean, it's no knock on Bret Hart because, I guess in that era, he was the close second. You know what I mean? I mean, they are the only two guys who ever got a match out of Kevin Nash, so.
Oh, they wore those pink frickin' tights, the both of them now.
Yeah.
One more question. Are they ever going to give up on this god-awful brand extension? Because it's boring, and...
I think they gave up on day one.
They gave up.
They give up and put it back together.
On doing it right from day one, but I mean they're bound and determined, in everything they say that they're not giving it up. But I think inevitably they will.
See, I think the thing right now is that all of these articles have come out in the last 2 weeks talking about our ratings are down, things are failing, and I think that Vince looks at these articles and goes, okay, we're going to keep this thing alive at least until this dies down, because I don't need another failure being touted in the media after all this other stuff has happened.
Oh, but I have to see The Undertaker on both shows.
Well, that will not last much longer because he's not going to be champion.
I'm going to put a pen in my eye if it keeps up.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be champion past the next pay-per-view, hopefully. And if he is, they're really stupid.
Oh, yeah, because they've never proved that before.
No, but I don't think that Angle's going to get the belt on Tuesday.
No Jeff Hardy on Monday?
I can't. Oh, Jeff Hardy's going to get... I don't know. I don't think he's going to get the belt on Monday.
When they did announce that match, though, I kind of, for a moment, thought, oh, my God, are they going to give this belt to Jeff Hardy?
Okay, they go to Jeff Hardy on Monday and then Kurt Angle on Tuesday. And then Kurt, he takes he goes on to the SmackDown show and loses to Kurt Angle. That way Undertaker never had to lose to Kurt Angle.
I guess they could do that.
And then Kurt gets the title.
I mean, the reason I thought that was they just have killed Jeff for so long. And then he cuts that promo like, you've just beaten me here, you've beaten my ass everywhere we go, now we're gonna do this ladder match, and I just thought, why would they do this?
Why do they even put mics near those two guys' face? Neither of them...
though.
Oh, you suck. Come on. All right, you guys do a hell of a job. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. We're going to go to Brian in Raleigh, North Carolina. Brian, what's happening?
Hey, what's up, guys? No bets here, but I got a question for you. How bad do you think is the NWO gotten in the past couple months? The whole thing with Vince McMahon saying, I'm going to change...
From day one, yes. We
I mean, it's just so dumb. And then they bring in Shawn Michaels, who everyone's so excited about. I'm a huge Michaels fan. And what doesn't show up at the King of the Ring except to hug Triple H. I mean, this guy is so underutilized. It's disgusting.
But they put him in the ring, and then the problem is once they put him in the ring, over. What if he can't do anything anymore?
Well, you know what? He's got to do something more than what he's doing. I mean, when is Nash coming back?
Yeah, I think so. Nash will be back in like 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks.
Why can't they get back to the? They're not badasses. They're just something they're made fun of by Booker T and Goldust. It's a big mess. And I think the big thing what they need, and I think they need Hogan back in there. I really.
Yeah, but no one's going to heel though.
No,
they tried. Hogan can't be a heel now.
Well, they kept him on TV every week for about 6 months. I think he could pull it off.
Yes, but. Wrong,
Yeah, wrong kind of heat.
Yeah.
I just think it's old. That's all I have to say. I wish the NWO would change. And Brian, you're out the NWA TNA. I read the
About 6 months. I think he could pull it off.
Yeah, but then it'd be the wrong,
Yeah, wrong kind of heat.
Yeah.
I just think it's old. That's all I have to say. I wish the NWO would change. And Brian, you're absolutely right about the NWA TNA. I read the internet all the time, and I watched the first show, and that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no interest in getting it again. Bad. It was just, it was okay, but I'll never order it again.
Wow, and they had a great match on Wednesday. I mean, great, but anyway.
Yeah. All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, let's go to Ricky
Wasn't it prophetic, by the way, when Vince said he was going to inject that poison?
Well, we said when he said that, we said it was, and he didn't even know that he was right.
Yep.
We knew it before he did, which is not unusual.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, Rick, what's happening?
Nothing much. Real quick, I was wondering, I heard that Jeff Hardy match, and then I was live in Chicago at SmackDown tapings to see Angle, and he is totally awesome. It's like...
Oh, he was on... he always
that
is.
match with Cena, as good as it was seeing it on TV, it was better live, because the crowd was so into it.
When did they figure out that Cena wasn't just a jobber? I mean, how long did it take before they, figured that out?
I think it happened when he hit that DDT. Where I think Angle was going for the Olympic Slam.
Yeah, and he went behind into the DDT.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because then you got all those quick near falls there. But I was wondering, as far as with the Jeff Hardy match, the ladder match, I was thinking that they would give Angle the belt on SmackDown this week because, let's say, The Undertaker wins the ladder match, but he gets really exhausted through it. And then you have Angle beating up a weakened Undertaker, and then you would have a guy who can work with a variety of opponents and make them all look good. And not
I would love for Angle to get the belt, because that means you got Angle and Rock on the next pay-per-view, which is an awesome match. They have perfect chemistry.
Right, or even Angle, if let's say you have Angle go over Rock the next pay-per-view. I know this may not happen at all.
And then you already go to Angle and Lesnar?
Yeah, I mean, that would be like the perfect guy. I mean, as far as that would be the perfect guy to the main, like you see the way he's kind of, he's still kind of tentative, especially with that RVD match, the two RVD matches he's had.
Well, he did better on the second one than the first.
Yeah. The other question I had real quick is, I was watching Velocity for whatever reason last night, and I was watching Tajiri basically take out Albert to the garbage there. And I'm just wondering, is Vince, he's suddenly bringing all these new guys from Ohio Valley Wrestling and HWA. The guys who they've tried, like the Alberts and the Just Incredibles,
they're in
for
trouble.
whatever reason, do you think these guys spot pretty?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Especially if they, when they give up on the brand extension, I think those guys, especially Just Incredible, is in real jeopardy.
Because they're getting higher salaries, right?
And I don't think that many of the guys' downsides are all that enormous these days, except for Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan.
But wouldn't Vince be paying a lot less for guys, younger guys, who don't have the baggage with the audience, who the audience has turned off for whatever reason?
Yes. The OVW guys would have lower downsides than an Albert or somebody like that.
Right. And just one last question. Do you think Jake from Tough Enough 2 is like, well, if he saw the lingerie contest on Saturday, that really think...
I will tell you that after seeing those girls, especially what they've done with Jackie, I'll bet you that Kenny and Jake are just flipping because they're fuming. They're not, even if what they're saying is correct, and I believe it is, those guys will never believe it in their natural lifetimes.
Well, Jake should be fuming for the $1,000 that he got for just, staying out for 6 months.
What an idiot.
Yeah. Well, it's in the contract. That's not his call. That's their call. It's in the contract. Well, anyway, we got to get running because we got to hit to a break right now.
We're back with Wrestling Observer Live. Give us a call anywhere in the U.S. toll-free at 1-866-OBSERVER, 866-627-3783. Once again, here's Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. Brian, what's happening with Enzo Gracie?
We're watching the Fedora versus Schilt match right now. It's about to start. Enzo Gracie lost the decision, and Shungo Yama was the happiest man in the entire world.
I bet.
I've rarely seen a man as happy as this guy was. They were about to do, they're both standing there waiting for the decision, and he had just his eyes clenched closed, just praying to the Lord, and he got the win.
He deserved it, though, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. I was just watching out of the corner of my eye like all these tonight, but he looked like he was clearly in control the whole time, and Gracie doing the crab, and I think it was a good decision.
Show, because we're on Sunday, and as weird as this sounds, in wrestling, Monday Night Raw by Sunday becomes old news, but the first hour of Raw last week, I thought was just terrible. And especially that opening segment, I was just going like, like every single thing that could be wrong. I mean, they sat out there and they brought everybody out there except for the stars, and they basically told you, we have no stars on Raw.
So who are we going to create?
Bubba Ray
wants to stop being a jobber.
Yeah. And then Vince is out there telling, that historical, his revisionist history of his life. And it's just like, God, give us some entertainment. I
think that Vince would actually be like Clint right now. He didn't have these promos to come out and it's like therapy for him. You could tell
I know it.
Come out that day, and he was talking to the editors of Variety, just going, look, I am Vince McMahon, and I've created blah, blah, blah.
I did all this. I beat all those guys.
Yeah.
I beat them all, and I'm going to do it again. I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I've done it before, so somehow it's going to happen again. It always does. Anyway, that's pretty much all the time we got in this hour. We're going to be back. We got a full bank of phone calls to get to, so hold on, everybody, and we'll see you on the other end. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready?
Let's
Welcome to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We just got word during the break that we're going to have AJ Styles as guest in about 15 or so minutes, so we can be talking to him. Brian, what's going on with Pride?
Demi Schultz just escaped the world's longest armbar, and he's being schooled on the mat by Fedor here.
Yeah. Good match?
It's a match.
A match?
Yeah. I'm not excited by it yet, but it's something.
Mm-hmm. How's the production as far as the show goes?
They had this great ceremony at the beginning of the show in mid-ring. I don't even know how to explain it, but there was like this thing that came down from the ceiling in the ring, and these you have to see it, but just some awesome production. And I have to say that I think that Boss Rutan and Steven Quadros are like the best commentary team in the business right now.
Really?
I really do.
Really?
Yeah. I would put them above Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler.
And why Boss Rutan cracks me up. I would put him ahead of Jerry Lawler because Jerry Lawler kind of has been doing the same thing for so long. And I don't know. I mean, Boss Rutan is a really talented guy.
Boss Rutan is just so funny, and they're both so knowledgeable. And when I watch WWF, I mean, Ross and Lawler, they do a great job. But sometimes I'll be watching it, and Lawler will be like, it's kind of like I've heard the whole shtick before. Watching it, and I'll just be insulted, kind of. You know what I mean? By things they'll say will just insult my intelligence. It's like, why would you say something like that? I never feel like that when I watch these two.
You know what, though? If they had 104 hours a year.
That is very true.
No, but I mean, I think Mike Tenay's been doing great on NWA.
Oh, yeah, he was awesome, too.
Yeah. He doesn't have much help, though.
And Don West has to be on this list as well.
For what?
I actually got a kick out of Don West. I mean, he's so horrible, but he's such a fan, He kind of says the things that I'm thinking. Like, someone will be out there babbling, and he'll just go off like, shut up, let's get to the match.
Right.
One
thing on Don West.
And Don West has to be on this list as well.
For what?
I actually got a kick out of Don West. I mean, he's so horrible, but he's such a fan, He kind of says the things that I'm thinking. Like, someone will be out there babbling, and he'll just go off like, shut up, let's get to the match.
Right. The thing on Don West is like, everyone's ripping on him. But the one thing is that, like, I don't find him...
He doesn't take away from the show. In fact, he's kind of funny. It's really weird, and not like a Jerry Lawler funny way or Steven Quadros, just like the Mark fan that's doing commentary.
And he's sitting there with Mike Tenay going, Mike, what's going on here, Mike? Tell me.
What was that move?
Anyway, we're going to be back with AJ Styles in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
That's WOL at WrestlingObserver.com. Now, back to Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're going to have AJ Styles up in just a moment. We were talking about Boss Rutan. We got to get Boss Rutan as a guest, like, real soon, don't you think?
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
I got to say one more thing about the Don West thing that I loved on that show is they were doing the Apollo versus David Young match, and David Young is just beating the hell out of Apollo. He's getting the heat on him. All of a sudden, Don West goes, Apollo's going to make his big comeback pretty soon. And Ed Ferrar's like, well, not necessarily now, blah, blah, blah.
Now that's embarrassing, though.
Up yet.
What?
I wonder if they smartened this guy up yet. He's starting to figure out psychology.
Oh, no. Have you seen the when Boss Rutan wrestled Hiroshi Tanahashi from about 2 weeks ago on New Japan TV, by any chance?
No, not yet.
Okay. I watched that match with some friends, okay, and this was right after seeing King of the Ring, which was on Tuesday, which is another story, but and I hope that VCR works tonight, or else I'm going to be going crazy when I get home. But they watched King of the Ring, and they thought Boss Rutan and Hiroshi Tanahashi blew away everything, and except for Van Dam and Jericho, I did too.
Wow.
I mean, and this was like about his fifth pro match, and listen to this. In the first 30 seconds of the match, as they were exchanging slaps, he got his eye poked. So a pro match is doing a 3-star match.
Well, how much of a pro wrestling match was it? I mean, was it a pure pro wrestling match, or did they do shoot style? Or?
I mean, they did shoot style. I mean, no one wants to see Boss Rutan do leapfrogs, even though he certainly can do them.
I'd like to see him do a leapfrog.
Yeah. No, he was just
calling cards.
He was just doing, they were doing the open hand slaps and a lot of kicks.
The liver kick?
He did the liver kick. Yeah, when he couldn't see, and, like, Tanahashi's, like, all over him. And he, you could just see he's going, oh, God, I can't see. So he, like, gets him away and gets the liver kick, so Tanahashi just, like, leaves him alone so he can kind of get some vision back in his eye.
Oh, God.
But it was tremendous. Anyway, let's get to AJ Styles in Atlanta, GA. AJ, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys.
And you're, like, in the last, I don't know, couple of months, 6 months or so, you've really started to make a name kind of on the cult side of things anyway. In the last week, I guess I've seen you in 3 matches, 2 in Ring of Honor and 1 actually was taped, the week ago Wednesday, but it aired on Wednesday night. And they were like 3 of the best matches I've seen in a long time, especially the Wednesday match. I mean, what would you rank as your best matches?
Oh man, it's really hard to pick just one because there's so many guys out there that nobody's seen. And they're just so good. And, I mean, now they're getting their opportunity, like Low Key. I mean, if you ever watch this guy wrestle, he's phenomenal. His style is so different than everybody, Chris Daniels, Jerry Lynn, even David Young. I mean, we've had some awesome matches. So it's hard to pick just one, because once you think you can't top it, you get in there with somebody new, and it blows the roof off, and you're just like, man, what else can happen?
Do you think that your career kind of turned around when you had because I mean you had the shot at WCW, but it really wasn't a good shot, even though we had all heard about you. But I think that you had like a couple of matches with Chris Daniels, the one in California, and then you had the one in the at the NWA convention last year. That really, I mean, everybody was just raving about those 2 matches.
Well, I'll tell you this: if it was our anniversary, I wouldn't have gotten to go to California. And wrestle Chris once again. So it just seems after that my wrestling career blossomed from there.
Let's talk a little bit about why you chose NWA TNA over the WWE offer.
Well, I mean that's pretty easy because financially, everyone's asking me that. It had nothing to do with me trying to be a bad butt or anything like that. It had nothing to do with it. It had to do with financial security. I'm married. I'm not one of these young guys who can just get up and go for $500 a week, especially move to Cincinnati. So my wife's still in college. She's finishing up. I'm not about to away from her. I'm not about to move to Cincinnati while she lives in Georgia. That's not going to, I just couldn't do that. And with the opportunity that I didn't know what they were going to do with me with NWA TNA. I just thought, it'd be a great opportunity to wrestle for someone like Jerry Jarrett, who has everything he's ever touched in professional wrestling, as far as I know anyway, has pretty much turned to gold. So the guy knows what he's doing, and I've got nothing to lose. So it sounded like a perfect opportunity for me anyway.
Now, how good, before NWA TNA came along, how good of a living could you make working the independents? Because, you were getting, except for maybe Chris Daniels, I mean, I don't know, like, who's getting the most work. Chris Daniels' name is the one that I've seen the most. But you're around a lot. I mean, I'm going to bring you to other places as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I don't care what anybody says, unless you're Chris Daniels, because he gets 12 bookings in 3 weeks, unlike me, who probably get maybe 2 to 3, maybe every 2 weeks, and I've always had Wild Side, but with me wrestling down there, my favor to them for helping me out, for training me and so on and so on, I wrestle for them, basically I wrestle for them free. Mm-hmm. They're not far from my house, so I don't think I couldn't survive. Even now, I still have a regular job just in case something happens. I can I do landscaping on the side just in case. I've always got something to fall back on. So, but I wouldn't be able to make it on the independent scene.
What give us a little bit about your background before you did a lot of sports before you got into professional wrestling.
Oh yeah, well in high school I played football all 4 years. Same thing with wrestling. I was 2-time state champion in wrestling, and went on to college. where they redshirted me my first year. And
what college?
So,
What college?
Anderson College.
Okay.
That's kind of, it's a Baptist college. So it was very expensive, and I'm paying for that now. But I didn't graduate. I realized that I really didn't like wrestling for a heavyweight. I was a heavyweight, and if you know anything about collegiate wrestling, heavyweights don't really know anything about wrestling. You know, I mean, usually they're flopping around with each other. You know, unless they're Brock Lesnar. You know,
Kurt Angle.
Yeah, Kurt Angle. Yeah, those two are exception. You know, but most of them, they're just laying around each other. Blown up, and so this guy who was the coach at the time was an idiot. So I hated wrestling, and then I realized that I was not that smart to attend college any longer, so I felt like I was wasting money, so I came home. So that ended my sports career, and then I just kind of fell into wrestling. That sounds crazy, but I wasn't one of those guys who watched it as,
Oh, you didn't watch it as a kid?
I wasn't able to. I mean, a pity party, but we didn't have cable. We didn't have nothing. We were lucky to get your basic channels on the antenna when if my brothers and I or whoever went out and turned it.
So now, so if you didn't grow up watching it, what how did you wind up in that wild side camp and you have a mind for stuff because you come up with moves that like Styles Clash and just a lot of your style. It's very innovative. It's not someone who's just just does basics like everybody else.
Well, I kind of, when I say I fell into it, I watched it. I got to watch it when it was hot, when I was in college, where the WCW, NWO, that's everybody watched it. Around '96 to '98, around there. So I watched it a lot, and when I came back home, I had two soul-bound friends that they just loved wrestling, and they had found a place to train. I said, well, when y'all go up, I'll go with you. They quit. I stayed. Got trained a little bit with NCW, which was Wildside now, but I was able to really get trained by just wrestling, the experience, getting in there and wrestling with this place called Good Old Days in Atlanta, and a lot of power plant guys were there, and a lot of the NWA, from Nashville were up there. So I was able to learn from those guys. I mean, that's one of those like Matt and Jeff Hardy where they kind of just learn on their own, But I was able to listen to everybody's criticism and say, oh, okay, I need to fix this and I need to fix that.
Now, it was in AM school. If you hadn't really watched wrestling growing up, were you one of those guys that just hated the thought of pro wrestling?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I remember Hulk Hogan saying the best athletes were professional wrestling, and I was like, you're a liar.
But you weren't the only one who used to say that, by the way.
Huh?
You weren't the only one who used to say that.
Well,
About Hulk Hogan, that is. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, there you go. The thing it's just like the UFC guys. They're kind of like that. Some of them are.
Yeah, but you know what? Almost every UFC guy that I know wants to be in pro wrestling.
Oh, now. Now, Ken Shamrock, when it first started coming on, you'd say, I forget, like Raw American Wrestling or something like that. Right. So, and I was kind of the same way, just because, if you're a wrestler, and if you've ever wrestled.
But almost every UFC guy that I know wants to be in pro wrestling.
Oh, now.
Just because of money.
Now, Ken Shamrock, when it first started coming on, you'd say, I forget, like Raw American Wrestling or something like that.
Right.
So stuff like that, and I was kind of the same way, just because, if you're a wrestler, and if you've ever wrestled before, we want to kill you. If you step on that mat with, it's kind of the same mindset, except we're really going to hurt you. No. So that was the thing with collegiate wrestling.
Now, AJ, before we got to run to a break, but real quick, how many years has it been since you started doing pro wrestling?
Going on 4 years, close to 4 years. I started, I guess, what would that make it? Almost 98, late 98.
Late 98? That's
yeah.
Almost 4 years. Wow, that's real impressive. We're going to get to phone calls right after this. We'll be back with AJ Styles. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
We're back with Wrestling Observer Live. Give us a call anywhere in the U.S. toll-free at 1-866-OBSERVER. That's 1-866-627-3783. Once again, here's Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. Want to mention real quick, if you're looking for information on how to get either the Wrestling Observer newsletter or Figure 4 Weekly, you just got to go up to www.wrestlingobserver.com, and there's info on both newsletters. And Brian's newsletter, I already mentioned it once, but this week, Brian's newsletter is always the most entertaining read in professional wrestling. But this week, I mean, it really was that he did a Frank Gotch rap that was just ridiculously funny. And anyway, and just his insight into wrestling and humor, and everybody loves to read the EMLL reviews, even people who don't have any idea who is in EMLL. AJ, we got AJ Styles here as well. AJ, I wanted to ask you, have you gotten any offers from Japan or anything like that yet?
No, not yet. That is one of my goals that I haven't reached yet, so hopefully it's in the future for me.
Now, Wednesday night, what's your schedule for Wednesday, and do you have, like, matches upcoming as far as with the NWA TNA?
I know that Wednesday I'm wrestling David Young. The X-Title will be up, so it'll be my first defense, and I'm not sure what I've got coming up. I think I may have some dates off, thank God, to rest up and let my body heal. So,
how'd you feel about the match on Wednesday? The one that airs this past Wednesday.
The four-way.
Yeah, I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was great. I mean, with the talent that was in there, it couldn't have, went wrong, So I was very happy with it. I've already watched it 5 times.
I've only watched it twice, but I thought it was out of this world. Have you worked with Jerry Lynn a lot?
Here in the past, I guess, couple months, me and Jerry have actually worked a lot together with the WWA and then Ring of Honor.
That's right. We saw the WWA match. That's right.
So and then back to TNA. So I guess yeah.
Do you have a favorite opponent? Had you ever worked with Psychosis before?
No, that was my first time wrestling with Psychosis. So it was good. I mean, I'd never wrestled him before, and I didn't know how good his English was. So it was a little, like that feeling where you don't know. I guess it'd be the same feeling I'd have if I went to Japan. Not knowing what was coming up, or if it was would understand what I was going to, tell him or whatnot. So, but he's a professional. I mean, it's great.
Did you ever have a point? Did you ever have a point where, when you were training and wrestling, where all of a sudden, I don't know if you say the light clicked on, but all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is something I really want to do, and this is something I can be really good at?
That's funny. It's one of those things. If someone asks me, okay, why did you get into wrestling? Well, of course I've gotten into wrestling for the money. Then I realized that there was no money at first, and then I accidentally fell in love with wrestling. So here I am, with something that I absolutely love to do, but don't make a lot of money at first, of course, and it was really hard to explain to some people. But unfortunately, I fell in love with wrestling. So it's something that I don't think I'll ever be able to get out of my system.
Anything, Brian, before we hit the calls?
No, go ahead.
Okay, we're going to go to Dan in Indiana, Virginia. Dan, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Doing great.
I wanted to ask you, now that Nash is going to be coming back in a few weeks, what do you think his next move to avoid? Because I don't see Nash wrestling for months or weeks or anything, any real extended period of time.
He's booked in a bunch of 6-mans with Booker against probably with Booker T. Goldust and somebody. I'm presuming. I don't know, but he's pretty clever. I guess
what's funny is Michaels was talking about if he does a comeback, he'd start doing 6-mans. And I was sitting there reading that thinking, Shawn Michaels is going to end up working harder and more often than Kevin Nash of all people.
Oh, I would think there's no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that no matter like Shawn Michaels at 30%, and he'll probably be better than 30%, but Shawn Michaels at 30% is going to be better than Kevin Nash.
Shawn Michaels at 10% is better. I mean, what's he do really? He just folds his arm, puts his hand to his hair, and the powerbomb. That's about it.
I know, but I gotta. I mean, it's
hard to hate Kevin Nash.
Yeah, there's a part of me that really doesn't like Kevin Nash, but then there's a bigger part of me that just goes, I mean, he's made all this money in wrestling by doing nothing, and I mean, I can't blame him. I wish he did more, but I mean, I gotta kind of admire that he does whatever he wants and always gets away with it. I mean, if I worked in the same company as him, I would probably resent him, but since I don't, I kind of go like, well, if no one tells you no and no one sends you home, then what are you gonna do?
Yeah, well, there's, I think a caller a little while ago was calling about, I think Angle should be the one to make Lesnar, which I thought was really stupid. Because, I mean, if anything, they need to rebuild Angle. I mean, that guy's really gotten damaged.
They are starting. They actually started on Tuesday when he pulled the wig off, and you know.
I mean, he actually, good thing he looks good bald, because I think he could look pretty, like, you know, maybe he can kind of remake his character with a new look, with a bald look. I don't know, but I think really Taker, Kane, those guys got to make. Those are the guys that got to make Lesnar.
Don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath on those. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen just because Taker and Kane should have made Angle. And Taker and Kane probably should have made Jericho. Didn't happen. And Taker and Kane are probably... I mean, they're totally useless. They get protected like crazy, especially Undertaker. I mean, as Triple H
lost. I mean, Undertaker just beat Triple H.
Undertaker's beat him a couple times.
Yeah, he beat him at WrestleMania. And
I mean, Taker's just... He doesn't really lose to anybody unless you're Rock or... And Austin. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't remember that. But, well, I don't know.
It was only a week ago.
I mean, if Undertaker doesn't make him... I mean, no one's going to make Lesnar. I mean, Angle can't really make him because Angle isn't even at that level, really, you know? Like that tippy top level where the fans believe, okay, Angle can really kick ass.
If they give him 2 months, he could be.
Yeah, but what's the point of building him up? Because you got to build him up, and that guy's got to be your guy, you know? He's got to be your Austin. You know, you don't build him up to then bring in a worse worker like Lesnar.
Yeah, I think the idea is to get Angle going and get Lesnar going and get them both going for a long time and make that a climactic thing rather than one make the other.
If Vince has any guts, he's just got to take down Taker and Kane. They bring nothing.
I just don't see him taking down either of them. I think that they see Kane as someone when he comes back who they can bring in fresh and do something with, and Undertaker, he's just got that spot. I mean that's just the nature of the beast.
I mean I don't know. I mean I see almost no difference sometimes. Except, I mean, I was at the house show in D.C., and, I mean, I watched Taker and, Hogan, and it was just, oh, God, I can't believe they expect to sell that to people. It was so bad. I mean, it was ridiculously bad. I mean, Hogan, he's amazing. He's such a huge, monstrous man that moves like an 80-year-old man. He can't bend his knees.
His knees are shot.
He was trying to do a simple back body drop, and he crumbled. And the fans kind of forgave him, but it was just sad. It was really just so sad. He couldn't do anything. And I just want to ask one more question. If do you guys think that we'll be seeing a Kelsey Grammer midget coming out anytime?
Oh God! Actually, we may.
Right? Okay. All right. Oh yeah. Can I plug the website?
Go ahead.
That's it. ObserverLiveChat.com. Are you coming, Brian?
Brian, what's going on with Pride, by the way?
You're gonna die when you see the Stone Fry versus Takayama fight. They like the collar and elbow lockup. They basically started like that and just punch each other with their right hands right in the face about probably 50 times in a row, just standing right there. Just the most brutal thing you've ever seen. It's a hell of a fight.
Is AJ? Are you up? I think we lost AJ. Okay, we're gonna get AJ. Yeah, we're gonna get AJ. Let's go to Matt in Boston. Matt, what's going on?
Dave, hey Brian. I want to really quickly ask about ECW. What's with the bankruptcy deal? Is it ever going to be possible for someone to buy the Hello?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought I lost you. To buy the name, trademark, and video.
I don't know what's the I think that there is I think that if someone wanted to buy the video library, they probably could right now.
Like just any time they go.
Yeah. If I don't know what you would do with it though.
Yeah,
But then again, 10 years from now, it might be from now, it might be worth a ton.
Really quickly about WWF booking, am I the only person who sees Rock winning the title of Vengeance and dropping to Lesnar at SummerSlam?
No, you're not the only person who sees that.
Makes perfect sense to me. I don't.
That's what I would do. And that's what they would do too if everything goes right.
It makes great sense just because Rock's going to be leaving. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he's
the guy over, and it doesn't even matter because he's going to make a movie.
That's right. So I think that makes and plus he can and he's got more credibility than anyone. Plus it's Brock Lesnar's first main event, so it makes sense on every level.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, let's go to Sean in.
I think we have AJ back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, we got to head to a break right now, AJ. We got some phone calls for AJ as well. Okay, and we're going to head to a break right now. We're back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
Time for more Wrestling Observer Live. Email the show now or anytime at WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. That's WOL at WrestlingObserver.com. Now, back to Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, for the show, we have AJ Styles of NWA TNA as a guest. And AJ, before we go to AJ, Brian, what's going on with the Fry Takayama fight?
It's over, and Takayama took the beating of his lifetime. Saying something after his fight with, what was that fight?
Vegeta or Semi Shield?
Actually, both of them, but the Vegeta in particular. They just destroyed each other. Both of his eyes, totally swollen shut. Ref stopped it. The end came when Takayama appeared to try to give him a belly-to-belly, and Fry fell on top of him in the mount, and it was all over from there.
Did it live up to its hype?
I would say so.
Wow. Where would you rank it as far as Pride fights? Like one of the best?
I'd have to watch it with the sound and everything, but it was up there as...
Anyway, let's go to Chris in Savannah, Georgia. Chris, what's going on?
Not much, fellas. How you doing? Hey, AJ, I got a question for you. I was wondering if you still keep in touch with Air Paris, and if so, what's he doing?
Air Paris, I really don't keep in touch with him that much anymore. After WCW, I think he just kind of, I don't know if he went into depression mode or whatever. I don't know what happened. He tried to make a comeback at Wildside, and the match was just...
pretty horrendous.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And so as far as I know now, he's just drinking a lot of beer.
Oh.
Golly. Jeez.
Yeah, it's sad.
I was a fan of you guys in Wildside, being a Georgia boy from around here, although we don't get you on our affiliate. But yeah, okay. Hey, Dave, I was wondering what you thought of the Booker T and Goldust stuff.
Me personally, I love it.
I
really do.
Dustin was really kind of tiring on me there for a while, but it seems like somebody lit a spark under his butt or something.
I thought the thing at King of the Ring was, I mean,
that was great.
With The Rock, it was so entertaining, and there wasn't a lot on that show that was great, but I mean, except for the Van Dam Jericho match, I think that was the second best thing on the whole show.
Yeah, I agree. But you think job to Lesnar?
I would, and I think they will too. I mean, it makes too much sense.
And Rock's a professional too.
And Rock will do it the right way. Rock won't have an ego about it because he's going to the. The one thing about Rock is that of all of the top stars in the WWF, I think we've seen that he is the most secure with his spot. Everybody else has that insecurity, and
they're not going to try to undercut Lesnar in the match and make him.
I don't understand. I don't understand thing. I mean, they have a guy who's not ready. And they make sure that everyone knows he's not ready by the way they book him, but they want him to be a big draw. It's like, I don't get it.
Yeah, kind of contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
I got a hypothetical question for all three of you guys, and it's going to be kind of wacky, but if somebody said all you could watch was two guys wrestling, Big Show and Silva, who would it be?
Giant Silva?
Yeah.
Wrestling or speaking?
Well, wrestling.
Wrestling, then I'd have to say Silva.
Silva over Show, huh?
I would say Silva, too.
Really?
Yeah.
I would say Silva also.
Oh, that's unanimous.
I posed the question to myself, and I kind of found it a mind-boggling proposition.
Okay, but if you said Big Show or Giant Singh, I would say Big Show.
Okay.
I'd say that about anyone.
I'd pick the Big Show.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, AJ, what did it feel like? Kind of like if WCW had survived. You probably were in line for. I mean, I'm not sure how big of a push, but certainly in line for something. You had just pretty much signed on, and then they were gone. Like, it was one of those weird things. That was like, it just
like Chris Daniels everywhere he goes.
Yeah, and Mike Modest too. Although Mike Modest is actually doing well now with Noah, but
yeah,
but one of those. It looked like there was going to be a new rebirth, and then all boom, Jamie Kellner made the thing. And I mean, what were you thinking? Being very new in the business, that was your first big break. You went from Wildside to national television, and then just in the and then it was gone.
Well, I knew something was up. Something's going to happen. I don't feel comfortable. I'm glad I'm here. I'm going to have the best matches, of my life if I can, if it's possible. And I had that feeling that something was up, especially, come the maybe my I guess it's the fourth show, when all the Lex Luger and Buff Bagwells and all those guys, and we're taking pictures with each other. I knew something was up then.
Usually a good sign.
Yeah.
So, it was okay. It could have been worse. It could have been one of these guys who was totally dependent on their paycheck to make their house payment. So if there's a positive, at least I didn't have to go through that.
Now, how did you find out, by the way, that it was over?
Well,
were you there like on the last show? It was a season finale, and all of a sudden it was like, uh-oh.
Well, yeah. I mean, we knew something was up, and Bill Barron's, the owner of Wildside, he seems to know a lot about what's going on.
Yes, he does.
And he was like, well, it's not gonna last. And I was like, come on, Bill, don't say that. And sure enough, it doesn't. And then I get I talked to like Jimmy Yank, and he said, oh yeah, they signed me. He called me. Johnny Ace called me, and they picked me up. So I was like, oh great. So if they call you, they're probably gonna pick you up. So I get about a day later, I get my phone call, and they weren't picking up my contract and stuff like that. It sucked, but that's when I told myself if I can't be on that national level, I'm going to be the best independent wrestler out there.
Let's go to Sean. Let's go to Sean in Pittsburgh. Sean, what's happening?
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Going good.
That's good. I was wondering if there's any heat in the locker room for Brock Lesnar, his monster push, and he hasn't been in WWE but a couple months. So,
I mean, as far as obviously, there's going to be some. I haven't really heard about as much as I expected I would hear, and I think part of the reason is I think everyone kind of understands that they just got to make a new star, and he's the one, And I think that there's
scary.
Yeah, no one's going to say anything to his face, I know. But if it was another time, I think there would be more people talking about it. And if he doesn't succeed, tongue right now.
Okay. Next question: Is there any truth to the rumor that Triple H's bone spurs were caused by holding so many people down for so many months?
Actually, I know, but let's go to Mitch in Berkeley. Mitch, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. I just got a question regarding basically like drug use and the rehab aspect of at least of the WWE, and then on AJ's level of in the indie wrestling, what it's like. What I know and what I have questions about is for one, is it true that Regal or Darren that he's like the head chemical dependency counselor for WWE?
I don't know if that's true, but he's kind of like their poster boy for for being a success story.
I know Hillbilly used high.
Yeah.
And what about that speech that Guerrero gave in Philly? What exactly was in that speech? Was it like an emotional, like recovery speech, or what exactly was in that? I read about it online, but I don't have a transcript.
I saw it. I think it was one of those things.
I was there.
I think it was one of those things where I think he just wanted to thank everyone for kind of sticking with him because he knew that he had made a lot of mistakes and he had kind of hit rock bottom and he was kind of determined to make it, and he was, But, thankful that everybody booked him while he was, what I mean, to kind of let his career go. And, the fact that he got all those good reviews was why WWE took him back. Because he wasn't Scott Hall where it was a negotiated part of bringing in to get him back. I mean, Eddie Guerrero had to before they were going to call him back after he kind of had screwed up.
AJ, you were there?
Yeah, I was there. And it was very emotional for me seeing, and that was maybe the second or third time that I'd met, Eddie. But the fact that he got up there and said that in front of all those people.
What exactly did he say, AJ?
Well, just basically just what Dave just said, that, thank you for sticking around with me when I know basically that, I screwed up. He admitted it, and, he was so emotional about it. I couldn't help but go, wow, that guy, as great as of a wrestler he is, it was emotional for everyone. And I just wanted him to succeed that much, that much more, because he's such an awesome guy. He's not one of those guys who just is in his little clique when for wrestlers, but he's one of those guys that says, hey, I got a hotel, I've got 2 beds, man, if you need to stay with me. That kind of guy. That if you don't have a hotel or whatever, you can stay with him.
What have you seen as like drugs in the business and and the indie circuit and how it affects guys and how like the recovery level is and stuff like that?
As far as the indie scene, it's easy to pick out the guys who don't want to become to that level with the WWE or the NWA TNA. It's easy to pick those guys out because those are the guys who are smoking before their matches, or they're not looking the best they can look as far as physically. If you look like a skinny weakling, then nobody's going to believe that you could whoop anyone. So it's inedible. I mean, these guys are always going to be there, and it's funny when you go to some of these and you're going, "Oh, I can't believe he's wrestling." You know, as far as drugs, you know, it's like some people talk about the steroids and stuff like that. I don't think that's as big as everyone thinks it is. You know, it's just all kinds.
I think at the WWE level, it's pretty big.
Really? Yeah, I read that on the site lately. It said that let's say steroid checks. Who were you guys referring to, if you can say?
What? I think Alex wrote that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, you can kind of look and see. I mean, it's one of those things where I'll just give you an example. Okay, is John Cena as a natural boxer was like a giant, and now look at him now compared to these guys. You know what I'm saying? And he's a young guy who, you know, knows and trains and has gifted genetics. Yeah.
Legitimate great genetics.
Yeah, he's got legitimate, you know, like Lance Storm genetics.
Yeah.
Wow. And hey, Dave, what do you think the difference is on the same topic? Like I used to work with George Wells, and although he was pretty jaded on the business and talking about it, I could still get some stories out of him, obviously, because I tried. And he'd tell these stories about, you know, Spivey beating up Adonis in the back.
Oh yeah. That was in front of the guys. Yeah.
And about the other one, my favorite one, although depressing, is, you know, is Piper totally just, you know, just high on coke and getting ready to run out to do a run-in and falling, you know, on his back, or like he was in.
I actually never heard that story, but
he said that one, and he said one where he was in Canada and they needed him to, you know, it was high and they knew he could talk and they needed him to cover like 20 minutes of TV time, and they just let him rip. And I guess he just had a lot of kind of wild stories. And my question is kind of what's the difference of the low tolerance level, especially after that plane flight and stuff like that? Like, what's the difference from now to about 15 years or 20 years ago in the business?
Yeah, I think it was wilder in the 80s because everybody in the 80s, what happened was you had a whole bunch of guys who had never really made big money, and
I mean, they just let him rip. And I guess you just had a lot of kind of wild stories. And my question is kind of what's the difference of the low tolerance level, especially after that plane flight and stuff like that? Like, what's the difference from now to about 15 years or 20 years ago in the business?
Yeah, I think it was wilder in the 80s because everybody in the 80s, what happened was you had a whole bunch of guys who had never really made big money in wrestling, and then all of a sudden they were making like huge money. Whereas now, I think the thing is we hear about them and they're usually gone. Whereas the guys in the 80s, there were a lot more problems and they never got rid of anybody. I mean, like those guys were around forever unless they just no-showed dates. Whereas now, you know, you're unable to work like Road Dogg did, and I mean they get rid of you.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got to hit to a break right now, okay, Mitch?
Thank you very much, guys.
Okay, we'll be back with our final segment right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
We're back with Wrestling Observer Live. Give us a call anywhere in the U.S. toll-free at 1-866-OBSERVER. That's 1-866-627-3783. Once again, here's Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, final segment of the show. I want to remind everyone also that Patrick Morrow's video game show will be up right after this, and we're going to go to David. David's got a question for AJ. What's going on?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, question for AJ. A couple weeks ago in Wildside, you had a match with JC North.
Yeah.
I was wondering, he got a concussion in that match from a brainbuster you gave him. Do you feel responsible for that?
Honestly, I was from a brainbuster. I'll be honest with you. Maybe from a clothesline that he didn't know was coming. I don't know.
Okay, because that's when he said he passed out.
So I'm pretty sure it wasn't. You know, I'm pretty safe. So I'm almost positive it wasn't on that. It could have been a clothesline because it came really hard, and he may have not known it was coming, but it was kind of a last-minute thing we had to do because one of the things got messed up on the spots, you know. So maybe he didn't know it was coming. I don't know, but you know, when I throw a clothesline, I'll throw it. It's not one of these. I don't pull back on my clotheslines. The quicker you bump, the less it hurts, I guess you say. But you know, it was one of those things. You know, in wrestling, you can't really feel responsible unless you're just really trying to be unsafe. So wrestling's wrestling. You know, I feel bad. I wish it hadn't happened, but I can't honestly feel, you know, for hurting somebody because I didn't do it on. If I did hurt him, it wasn't on purpose, but that's part of wrestling.
Okay, let's just go to Chuck real quick. Chuck, you got a question real quick?
Oh yes. Do you think that if the WWE was as hot as it was back in 98, 99, that Jeff Hardy would win the title?
Actually, in those days, I would still say no. I guess that's the simple way of putting it. Not the WWE title, maybe the Intercontinental, because he did hold it for a couple of days at one point. Okay, Chuck, we got to get running. We are totally out of time. AJ, thanks very much for coming on such short notice.
No problem.
And best of luck to you Wednesday, and best of luck to NWA TNA, because we want to see an alternative. I definitely want to see something different. Brian, thanks very much, of course. And Patrick Moore will be up next. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.